Welcome. We're jumping right into hyperspeed in this segment of 5 Minutes with KeRusso. And we're going to talk about family. We're going to talk about future. And I want you to be thinking about yours and what do you hope for? And what kind of life do you want? What kind of life do you want for your children if you have children or if you're going to have children? So let's jump right in here. Back up to chapter 3 real quick. You got the story of Adam and Eve rebelling against God, not listening to him. God confronts them with their sin. He drives them out of the garden and they move east. God is in the garden. They're going east. That's a movement away from God. Genesis chapter 4, you have the story of Cain and Abel. Cain murders his brother. God confronts Cain with his sin and disciplines him just like he did his parents when they sinned. And Cain gets upset, not because he killed his brother, but because he's getting disciplined and because he's afraid he's going to get killed. God offers him grace and protects him so that doesn't happen. And then chapter 4 and verse 16 tells you about Cain's decision, how he's going to live his life. In a nutshell, this is it. So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. You read there, he went out from the Lord's presence. He's moving away from God. East of Eden is a movement away from God. The land of Nod is also, it means the land of wandering. Chapter 4, verse 16, the nutshell is this. Cain's life, he's going to spend it wandering away from God. Now, what kind of life do you get out of that? When you make that choice, what's going to happen? Let's read further. And verse 17 down through verse 24, you read about Cain's family line. And it's a little genealogy here. And you might think, I don't like genealogies, especially in the Bible. I can't pronounce the names. They're just dry reading. Well, stick with this one. Fake it. Try to do your best to read the names. The first name that's mentioned in this line is Cain, obviously. And you find out this about Cain. He gets married, finds a wife, gets married, and he has a child, and he builds a city. And he names the city after his son. So you look at this and say, hey, this is not a bad life. Cain's got a good life. He's successful as a businessman, civic leader, the whole 9 yards. Then you read some other names, nothing said about those. And then you get to verse 19 and you read about Lamech, and a lot is said about him. Now, why a lot about him? Because he is the seventh in line, at least in this list, from Adam. And 7's an important number for Jewish people, for Hebrews. It means perfection. And so what's going on here, when you read about Lamech, the writer is saying, here is a perfect snapshot of what this family line looks like. Okay? Well, what's it look like? You read about Lamech's children, and they are all successful from a social standpoint. I mean, just tremendous. He has one son who is a father of the agricultural industry and selling livestock. You have another son who is a father of the music industry and making instruments and playing them. You have another son who is a father of the metal industry and forging bronze and iron. And you have a daughter, not much is said about her, but her name is Naamah, and it means to sing or to comfort. So apparently what she's known for, she's a great singer. So she's like your first Beyonce or your first Whitney Houston or your first Barbara Streisand or whatever your favorite female singer is. She's the first. You look at Lamech's children, and you're like, wow, they're great, successful. What more could you want from life than to have that kind of a family? Well, then you read verse 23 and 24. And there, Lamech describes his life. He's talking to his two wives, and he says, I killed a man for wounding me, a young man for injuring me. If Cain is avenged 7 times, then Lamech 77 times. What Lamech is saying is, you look at my life, you want to know what I'm about hatred and vengeance. You don't mess with me. You thought my great-great-great-great-grandfather was bad? I'm bigger, I'm badder, I'm meaner. Don't mess with me. Now that's a snapshot of that family history. Yes, they were successful business-wise, career-wise. But you read this description of Lamech's life and you say, boy, that's a scary family. That's what happens when you walk away from God. Now, Think about your life, your family, your future. If somebody could take a snapshot in somewhere in your generation or in your family line to say, this is what this family was all about, what's it going to say? I'm going to tell you, if you decide to live your life chasing other things and wandering away from God, you might be successful in this world. And you might have a lot of friends and people patting you on the back and people giving you plaques and honoring you. But there's going to be some stuff that comes with it. It's going to be pretty bad, and you're not going to like it. You won't like it. So listen from Cain, learn from Cain. Don't live your life wandering away from God. Now, next time we get together, we're going to talk about another genealogy. It's a good one. Leave a note if you want to. Send me an email at booksbycaruso@gmail.com. I hope you'll check back in for the next segment. Be blessed.